Hey guys, I hope you're all doing very well. Welcome back to another video. And today I'm going to be talking about Meg 2 The Trench. And I'm just going to be really straight up and honest. This film is very boring. I didn't really have much good things to say about this film. But even though I would say there were bad things, it wasn't like overall this movie was a bad film. I think for most people, this movie would sit as a very average movie. But unfortunately for me, I just didn't really like this film. Now, I'm going to be very quick with this review because I don't really want to kind of talk so much about this movie. Usually, I will kind of talk about the plot or the summary or the story of this film, but there really is no story in this movie. But I'm just going to kind of deliver mostly on some of the details and the good points of this film first. Um, the first thing I would say, I do think moments in this film I would say is slightly better than the first movie. It's not a massive improvement, but I definitely think when they get the Meg moments like the shark, I think they delivered, and they kind of do change it up a bit with other sort of creatures as well, which was interesting. So I don't think they kind of lacked for sort of moments where it involves like jump scares or just some sort of crazy over the top action. And I also think that Jason Statham is the standout. I think most other people who watch Jason Statham, it's like your cake and eat it. You just know what you're going to get from him, delivering good action set pieces and just going a bit over the top. And I think he definitely stars in this movie pretty well. And I think some of his the crew around him, the actors as well, definitely do have their own charisma to kind of enlighten the movie and kind of project some sort of positivity in this film. And I think they do deliver some character as well as some fun as well. So I think those aspects I can sort of appreciate more in this movie compared to some other boring, meaningless movies that really don't sort of kind of put that sort of level up there really. So I think I could sort of appreciate the fun aspects of this film and some of the actors' charisma. Okay, so now all the positives are now done and talked about. Let's now talk about the main aspects of this film. Now, this movie is beyond generic. I think the storytelling in this movie and the sequences is probably the most generic of any movie I've ever seen. The movie literally just starts and ends how you expect it and how it done. And even when the movie ends, it literally just abruptly ends. It's just it really doesn't really have anything in terms of building up emotion in characters or developing characters in any sense at all. Now, I do think, obviously, Jason Statham's character as Jonas is he's actually does stand out a lot, as I mentioned. And I think his crew team as well in this film were actually good in their roles. And I really think they did build up some charisma as well to really sort of make that work. But unfortunately, I do think they did add other characters. So they did add in this film, they added some mercenaries who are after Jonas and his team. And they really didn't have a place in this movie. It felt very much they were just there for padding or just adding some other sub aspects to the story, which really didn't add anything. And to be honest with you, understanding their motivation, why they came after him, made no sense. Also, one thing I'm going to kind of talk about as well is just how generic that dialogue is. The dialogue is literally just two NPC characters talking, and they just don't really sort of add anything new to the story. It's just very generic dialogue. They've come up with cliche comedy, which unfortunately in this film, like every other movie, just didn't land at all. It seems like every single movie kind of plays off the same sort of AI generated comedy all the time, and it is just so awful. It's just eye rolling. It's so hard to listen, and I really don't think they really put much emphasis and care about how characters, about the writing, the script, and the dialogue at all. But besides all those sort of things about the film's pacing, the dialogue, the characters, and its overall story, I think the main problem I think for me with this film is just the CGI. I feel 90% of the time watching this movie is literally just CGI. It's very disorientating. It can just sort of the camera will just spew out and just pan and tilt, roll everywhere, and you're just left with just stupid scenes with the sharks and the other creatures as well. it looked very, very cheap. It didn't feel like a movie with a big budget, although I don't even know what the budget is. So those are like a lot. So there are a lot of problems I have with this film, but I could probably say even though more problems I would have with this film, at least there are some attempts that I think it did deliver something different, and sometimes I could sort of praise it more slightly than the first one, although it's not saying much. Now, I do feel people may disagree with me on this, but I have watched a movie this year where I do think this movie should have been very similar to this one and maybe should have taken ideas from is Cocaine Bear. Now, I did enjoy Cocaine Bear. I thought it was a good film. It wasn't like an amazing great film, and I do think that a lot of people unanimously didn't really like it that much. But I think what that movie did, it did actually go into the deeper aspects of his comedy and kind of do things in a very dark, humorous way. And actually, it went, pretty further with his gore and adult themes to make him more self-aware about a a killing an animal who is like a killing machine. I feel like the Meg should have really kind of taken some ideas from that, and probably that could have probably maybe make the movie slightly better. I don't know why they kind of make it more appeal to younger audiences, because I don't really think younger audiences would really feel the logistical vibe about jump scares, sharks, and all those sort of things. I do think a more older audience and more gorier themes would have actually made this movie worked. But that's kind of my opinion on that. But overall, I have to say this is a very boring movie, and I don't really think you're gonna feel disappointed watching it, but you're not gonna have much good things to say about this film at all. So overall, if I have to rate Meg 2 The Trench, I'm gonna give it a 4.5 out of 10. That I don't really have a lot I could really say about this movie as anything good. It really does just fall short to many other sort of killing animal machine movies, or I don't know. It just didn't really work as a film for me. And yeah, that's about it. See you later.